What's going on, guys? It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we look at all sorts of interesting topics having to do with money. So, if those are topics that interest you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're here to work with everybody to educate you guys, ideally, give you the truth around crypto, what's going on in the market, to help bridge the gap between entrepreneurs and real estate people, the crypto, to really help you so that you don't miss the opportunity that we believe is the biggest opportunity in front of anybody right now. So we're pumped to have you guys on the show. Go ahead and intro yourself, Corey.
Yeah, man. Corey Geary, real estate investor turned crypto investor. Really truly believe that the great transfer of wealth will happen via crypto. And I just want to, take a lot of friends with me along this journey that we are on, create multiple legacy, wealth type stories, with our friends, man. And yeah, that's it, man. Just having a good time doing it.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in today. We've had some really fascinating updates via Twitter and the GitLab from the Pulsechain devs. In fact, let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, let's do. Cool. All right. So more recently, well, let's start over here. So more recently, this weekend, I believe it was just a few days ago, one of the
It was actually
devs,
New Year's Eve, man. I was at home New Year's Eve, and he came out into the public eye on New Year's Eve. So it was like I wasn't doing much for New Year's Eve. I'm a family man now, so I was staying at home, and it was around 10 p.m. before here in Arizona, the clock ticked over, and he started making tweets. He came out and started making tweets, and I started seeing. I was like, "What? Who is this guy coming out on New Year's Eve talking about Pulsechain?"
right. And so it's been really cool to follow his account, to check him out. It's nice because, well, let's push back a little bit. So he comes out and says, "I'm a Pulsechain dev." The first thing that I'm thinking is, how do we try to validate this claim? Because you see a lot of new accounts pop up and they come and make claims. A lot of the time, those claims just aren't accurate. One of the things I really liked is you can see this account's been around for a long time, since April 2008. And he also shared, I don't know if I'll find it here, but one of the other Hex accounts pushed back and said, "How do we know that this Brett dude is a real Pulsechain dev?" And he posted, I don't know if I'm going to find it. That's all right if I can't. But he posted from the GitLab hub. If I'm saying that wrong and you're a dev, don't crucify me. But I don't see it here. That's all right. So he went and he shared a screenshot from GitLab, which is where they're doing the coding for Pulsechain. And he shared everybody that was a part of it. I think there's 8 members. And Richard Hart, of course, is one of them. And then Brett is there as well. It's got, this same picture of his face. It's got his same credentials. And from what I could tell, it seems legitimate. A lot of the other members of the community that are well known and, what's the word? Have a lot of legitimacy and credibility around them. Yep. Have pitched in their support for him. So it's been really cool to see. One of the updates that we talked a little bit about the other day, but let's talk more about it here, is he confirmed that there are, well, let's talk about it. He says, "Someone asked where I got my data." This is some of the data he was sharing on January 1, like Corey was saying. "Here is the output of a DHT crawl. It takes about 9 hours. There were 579 nodes that were found with Pulsechain testnet v2b fork. The record line is encoded and the yada, 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 IP address and port to connect to." So I don't know what that last sentence means. However, we certainly can look at the parts that he's talking about here, where he's indicating there's 579 nodes just for the testnet v2b, which is pretty remarkable. Go ahead and share your insights on what this means, Corey. What do you think about it?
Oh, I think it's amazing because he also alluded and showed a map. I don't know if you can find that map there, where all the nodes are at across the world. And what's really remarkable is that most of it is spread out. Like we don't have it all centralized just in the United States. They're all over across Europe, you know, down to New Zealand, Africa, and it's there we go. That's the map right there of all the different nodes. Now, obviously, we do have some in the United States, which some is fine, but we want to be as spread out as possible because one of the biggest problems that people are seeing in the Ethereum 2.0 merge is that it's very centralized here in the US. And some people are saying there's some FUD going around on Twitter that, the SEC is going to call Ethereum 2.0 a security because it's all centralized here in the US. And whether they have a valid case or not, I don't know. And whether the SEC would do something like that, I don't know. But it was just nice to have it decentralized across the whole world. That way, if something were to happen to one country, anyways, like like a freeze over, or like I don't know, maybe a war would happen. But we have other, nodes across the world. So that's why it's crucially, it's really important for decentralization to have these nodes spread out, which is amazing that we're seeing this all over. I mean, in Europe, it's very, very focused on, and
Yeah, look
Europe
at
has
that.
multiple countries that it's just, it's everywhere. And I love that. I would love to be able to learn how to spin up a node myself one day, especially for Pulsechain. I'm kind of starting to read about it a little bit. It's just be interesting to see because the only reason why I started looking into it is because there was some FUD going around on MetaMask about collecting data from using the RPC settings, and people were like, "Well, just create your own RPC by spinning your own node up." And it's like, well, is it that easy? And so I've been doing some research on it. You have to go down the rabbit hole a little bit to learn how to do it. But yeah, I love the idea that there's just a lot of decentralization coming out with Pulsechain, and super bullish for the project, man.
Right, right. And like you're talking about, the MetaMask example was an interesting one where people were trying to find workarounds. And that's the beauty of having additional nodes is if
Yeah.
you're connected to one node and something is done via that node that you're just not happy with, for instance, with data collection, you can go and just connect to a different node that may give you or may not collect data or do something different that you like better. You should go connect to that node and utilize the network similar to how you were before. And also, like Corey was saying, with it being so decentralized, we have the ability that, God forbid the United States says, hey, Pulsechain, well, you still could have the ability to go and connect to nodes in various countries, or, they did it in other countries. You'd have the ability to connect elsewhere, and that wouldn't kill a project because there's nodes all over the world. And this is just the test net, which is pretty remarkable.
Right. It blows my brain that, this is testnet 2B. And then we've got this kind of decentralization all over the world. This shows the community support and and how much belief that people have in the system. And it's going to be phenomenal to even see testnet 3 what we have people spin up. And I'm excited to see it, man. I can't wait. And I hope this dev just does a good job on keeping us updated throughout the journey here until we go live with mainnet, because this is just fun stuff.
Oh, I agree. That was the main update we got from him. He said that he wasn't going to spill any beans that Richard hadn't already, which I thought made a lot of sense. In fact, if he was trying to say things that Richard hadn't already, I think that would give room for pause because it's not his place to go and do something like that. So the credibility so far appears to be here. He appears like he's a legitimate Pulsechain dev, and it's good to be able to have a little bit more life back in the Pulsechain, the Pulsechain community.
Ecosystem, yeah. And he is. A lot of people have kind of dug into him a little bit and validated him. Some very reputable influencers have kind of did their due diligence on him. And I'd be willing to bet. He is RH has probably told him, say, hey man, why don't you go ahead and just make yourself a little bit public and start talking some progress updates. That way, you know, kind of calm down the FUD in the community, because as we all know, the FUD's been just disgusting in the community lately, because people have being impatient, and of course the bear market doesn't help when people are getting wrecked from their coins being 96% down. And you know, I feel like a lot of people over leverage themselves going into Pulsechain and Pulsex, and so yeah, there's a lot of FUD, and this is a nice sign of relief, saying, hey, we are making progress, we are moving forward. It's still going to happen. And to me, I think 2023 is probably the best year it could have happened. I'm glad he didn't launch in May of 2022.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank goodness, because everyone's all pissed off about it. But your bags would be 80% or more down had that happened, because a lot of that economic energy would have to have left the system, just because of the economic just the economic bear market we're going through, just the typical, you know, with the Fed raising interest rates and the money getting sucked out of the economy, it would have got affected. There's just no two ways about it. And people are like, oh, no, it wouldn't have. No, it would have. And so Richard knows this. He's not an idiot. And so I feel like I'm blessed that he didn't launch it in the middle of last year. And you know, maybe we'll see it this year. I don't know. You know, maybe the middle of this year, maybe it's May 2023. That way Richard didn't lie. You know, he's like, hey, I told you guys
later than everyone thought.
Yeah, I told you guys May, and here we are. You know, we're in May, so I don't know if he expressed the year.
Nope, he didn't.
But I'm super excited that, you know, he didn't launch last year. We're seeing progress. We know it's coming. And they're updating, man. They're continuously updating the code. They're continuously working on it. You know, they're forking ETH 2.0 now from the merge. It went successful. They saw that it was successful. They know that code is better than the BSC code, and so they're forking the better code that will have the updates, you know, basically almost automated into it in the future. That they can just, you know, roll with, which I love that too. So I know Ethereum's having another update this year. What's it called? Ethereum Shanghai. It's called the Shanghai update, which will be happening sometime this year, which will allow a lot of the Ethereum stakers to unstake their coins. So it'll be interesting to see if we see some downward pressure on the Ethereum network once the Shanghai merge happens. But either way, man, I'm super stoked, super excited. I'm glad this guy came out and he's talking. It just gives us a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. I'm excited. We got Jeremy in the chat. Jeremy jumped on. Appreciate you, Jeremy. He says, watched you guys' streams past few days. You guys are fire. Thank you. Thank you. Finally live with you. Oh, yeah, live with you too. Awesome to have you, Jeremy. Appreciate you, man. And of course, any of you guys with questions in the comments, go ahead and post them and we'll address those here, or yeah, questions and comments. Love to have those. Yeah. Also, Corey and I have talked a little bit about it on our previous streams. We're building, in our opinion, the dopest crypto community that bridges the gap to other entrepreneurs, real estate investors, people outside of crypto. If you're looking for a community, you need help with crypto, me and Corey certainly we'll never claim to be perfect. We're never top or bottom callers. You know, we're simply here to share our experience, the pitfalls that we've gone through, our experience from being professional real estate investors for a number of years, now moving over in the crypto space. We're applying the expertise that we learned there. And so far it's been very profitable with crypto. So if you want to be part of that community, then go ahead and comment on this video. I'll send you a message where you can come and jump on a call or send us a DM on any of the other social platforms. We'd love to chat with you. The next thing that brings us to is we've been getting updates, like you already said, Corey, on the GitLab. Katie is a prominent person in the Pulsechain community. She has great updates. Really like Katie. In fact, any of these people we're talking about on this stream, these are all Twitter accounts. These are people that we follow, that we like, that we trust. And so I'd recommend giving them a follow as well. They've been excellent. Katie is on the Power City team. Is she a dev? Do we know that?
I believe so. If she's not a dev, she sure talks like one, and she understands code and understands how this works from the inside out. So I'm thinking yes, but I mean I don't want to misspeak either. But yeah, she's a very intellectual person in the community. I love seeing people like this in our community. We have a lot of them, which man, it just tells me I'm in the right place when you're in a room with people who are smarter than you know you're in the right room. And we know that from real estate. Like we always want to be in masterminds where there's movers and shakers who are smarter than us, who make more money than us, who understand the game better than us. And it's the same with this. This is no different. And she's one of those people.
Agreed. She has shared recently some really cool updates in the GitLab for Pulsechain and Pulsex. Well, let's look at a couple of these here. So Pulsex, GitLab, dev movement, set up with Pulse execution node, Lighthouse client. We are close. Let's pull this up. So here they are in the GitLab, and sure enough, she's just sharing. This is where it shows. Oh yeah, once again. So here's Brett.
Yep.
He's the guy that we talked about before. He's here on the GitLab, and these are the devs and the guys working on it, and the ladies, if there's any ladies working on Pulsex and Pulsechain. So got an update there. We got another one here with Pulsechain. You can see that they're making updates, which is really exciting. And she's saying that we're close. Now, my question that continues. Here's another update that continues to play in my head is
name Richard Hart on that top one there. Open that screenshot there.
Right here?
Yep. Open that. You're going to see Richard Hart made an update. If I believe it's on this one. There was one of these where he was in there right before the new year, and he did an update to the GitLab.
Richard himself did?
Richard himself did. Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it.
It's there somewhere, but
I'll see if I can find it here. But lots of cool things. Like that's one of the things we haven't seen for a number of months is updates on the GitLab. And it's nice to be able to see. I mean, honestly, I feel like Richard, they've been, in my opinion, I think they've been working in the background, and now it's go time. We're in the end of 2023. I think Richard feels pretty confident this is the year to launch it. And so I couldn't be more excited. However, I think it's important to give both sides of the coin. These guys have been saying that we were close for months now, right? And Katie's great, but she's been one of them. She's extremely positive, which is helpful, but they've been saying that we've been close for months. And the question that I have rolling around in my head is, okay, like when do we actually launch? And we've talked a little bit about this in past shows, but gosh, I'm still a firm believer that if I'm Richard, and I'm not, so I'm just speculating, and this could be totally wrong. However, if Pulsechain and Pulsex were my projects, well, timing the market would be a very big factor in the launch of those projects. And so I would, frankly, I'd patiently be waiting to see when the governments around the world, and particularly the United States, since the United States affects all the other governments, when the Fed would make the pivot, when
that's
they would
exactly what I was going to say.
Back on, right? When they turn the money printers back on, and we could be off to the races. A lot of these guys sharing charts. I've seen a bunch of them on Twitter where they're showing particularly like the hex chart, and they're like, oh, here's the hex chart. Then, we're at the bottom, and they're practically trying to call the bottom and saying we're only going up from here. But the problem is those price charts have been in an economic environment where the money printers were going like freaking crazy. And we're not in that place anymore. And so not to say that, these patterns couldn't continue to play out, not to say that maybe Hex and other cryptocurrencies haven't found their bottom already. But gosh, like things are different now, certainly the economic environment. And it'll be really fascinating to see where where crypto goes and the time frames, if the 4-year crypto cycle continues to play out or not. What are your thoughts, Corey?
My thoughts is I think it will play out. I think it might be prolonged a little bit. But I mean, you have typically in a crypto cycle, you have that time period where you're running sideways for a year and a half, 2 years. Like that sideways for 2 years, instead of being sideways, it could just be downward pressure. You
Sure.
know, we don't know, right? Until there is some kind of pivot, and then it could go from like serious downward pressure to a massive, hockey stick type pattern in the whole marketplace. But we don't know, right? But I do believe, in 2024 we will see at around that time. It could happen in 23 towards the end. That's my prediction when the pivot happens. 24, because now we're leading into the presidential elections. The elections are going to play a massive part of this whole story that's playing out. To me, in my opinion, I could
Yes.
be wrong, but you got the presidential elections, and then the Bitcoin halving doesn't happen until March, rough estimate, depending. I mean, that can change too, depending on the hash rate, but March of 24. And so maybe, in my opinion, the bull market gets prolonged just a little bit or put off a little bit, and then maybe we don't see a top into 2026, which that would normally be when we're starting to go down. Who knows? But I feel like they're lining up very close to each other.
Yes. Yes. Now, the interesting thing about if instead we get the year and a half, 2 years of sideways action like we traditionally see, if it's more downward pressure, I mean the hockey stick bounce back will be epic. It will be enormous
Super
because
cycle.
instead of having, I mean, that's the reason that the Hex narrative even has the 10,000x in about a year and a half narrative, is because it dumped so hard in the first, about 30 days. If it wouldn't have dumped that hard, then you wouldn't have this 10,000x narrative. And it would be similar with any cryptocurrencies that
100%.
made it out of the bear market. If they really did continue to dump, well, if you're able to capture some of that bottom action and be buying during then, the upward pressure up will be enormous. And I know you've called it a super cycle. Talk a little bit about why you think this next crypto run could be an absolute super cycle.
Oh, absolutely, man. Because not only are we just lining up perfectly with, like I just mentioned, the Bitcoin halving in 24, up with the economic probably recovery. Remember the presidential elections in 24. I don't think Biden's going to go out without a fight. And then you got, I don't want to get political, but if Republicans get back into office, that is going to be massively bullish for markets. I don't care what side you're on. If they get in office, that's going to be massively bullish, which I think there's a good possibility that could happen. Like I said, I don't want to get political, but so that's going on with the Bitcoin halving, with another year of just economic downturn, and then you're going to have a couple other things that are going to be playing out. CBDCs are coming into the marketplace probably in 2023. Now, it might not be on the public level here in the United States, but it's going to be introduced. The bill's already been passed. CBDCs, if anybody doesn't know, that's central bank digital currency. That's going to be the Fed's version of crypto, I guess you'd have. It's going to be like a stable coin that will allow some regulation into the crypto sphere. But with regulation comes big money. That allows big money to get into crypto. It allows adoption to happen. Yes, there's regulation that they may be able to like ban certain crypto projects, but they're already doing. Look at Tornado Cash, right? Like that.
Right.
The devs in freaking prison right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. But there's going to be they really want to regulate and make sure they're watching people for like tax purposes, for money laundering, and then there's a couple like going down the rabbit hole. Of course, they can really regulate how you live your life through CBDCs, which monitoring your free speech, monitoring and how you act, just how you are as a citizen, which that's a whole nother show. But regardless, it will allow adoption. And with adoption means a lot more money will flood into the cycle. And every single bull run we've had, every cycle we've had, more adoptions happen. And I've been looking into this metric because I was on a call the other day and someone asked me what the metric was. I would like to know on every 4 years, how much more adoption are we getting? How much more people who are just online in general are getting into cryptocurrency, the universe, and specifically in DeFi? I would like to know, like in DeFi, because for me, people who are buying off of like, buying Shiba Inu off of FTX, that to me is not crypto. I would like to know what kind of adoption the DeFi world's having. And I feel like DeFi is going to have a lot more adoption this next bull run because of the collapse of the centralized exchanges this time around. You got BlockFi, who went down. You got Celsius, who went down. And obviously FTX, everyone and their mom knows about that one. My dad knows about it, and he doesn't even know what crypto is. It's funny.
All right.
So he thinks FTX is crypto. I'm like, no, that's not crypto. But okay. So you have this narrative now that's been built up. That's a true narrative that these centralized exchanges are taking everyone's money, not your keys, not your coins. You hear us preach about that all the time, and that's going to be a strong narrative going to the next bull market, which will push more of the adoption into DeFi. And so with all this lining up, I project a super cycle, man, with, some regulation coming in, with the economic recovery coming in, with the presidential election, the lining up with the Bitcoin halving. I just don't see it any other way. I mean, unless something were to happen, now don't get me wrong, something could happen in 2024, like a war or, someone, there could be something, a black swan type of situation where it could disrupt that super cycle, of course. But, I'm playing it as it's going to be massive. And not just in crypto, man. I believe for real estate too. I believe, real estate guys who have been, complaining this last 5 years that they can't get good deals. They're going to have their opportunity to get some massive deals in 2024, I believe, and maybe even 25. Real estate's always last to react. Crypto's first to react, followed by stocks. And then you got the real estate market. And so there'll be good deals to be had everywhere. And there'll be massive upside potential to be played upon. And I believe if you're looking for that once in a lifetime opportunity to build legacy wealth, we couldn't be more in the right place, the right time than right now.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely. No, good share. I'm with you, Corey. It'll be really fascinating to see. Like you said, everything appears to be stacking up to have just an explosive, a couple of years after the next Bitcoin halving, which, like you said, is projected to be early 2024. Historically, you start to see the market poke its head up and show some signs of life about a year before the Bitcoin halving. So we'll see come, later Q1 this year, early Q2, if we start to see some of that action. So I'm excited. It'll be good.
I'm very excited. And the key is for our listeners is you got to find a nice handful of projects, not a bunch. Don't go out there and buy 100. That's how I got into crypto, watching the influencers. You want to find a nice handful of good, solid projects that have product market fit, that you've done your due diligence on, and you see where they make sense. And this is what you want. You want a handful of them now in the bear market. You build those bags in the bear of these, awesome projects, and you ride those out into the bull where you will sell. It's that simple. It's the old Warren Buffett, buy low, sell high. But for some reason, the rest of the world does the opposite. And I get it, because we all play off human emotion. It's emotion that does it. And it's hard to control your emotions. In crypto, it's the most important thing is your emotion and having control over that. So that is the blueprint for 2023. Your blueprint should be finding good, solid projects and DCA into them, or get in on basically the IPO round, ICO round, or what we call in the Richard Hart's ecosystem, sacrifice round. Getting into those projects is fine too. But that's the key for 2023, and then riding those up. And I feel like we do very well at doing due diligence in those projects. So if you guys want to learn how we do that, obviously hit us up for the group. With what we're talking about all the time is good quality projects.
Agreed. We got Simon on. What's up, Simon? Appreciate you tuning in, man. And feel free to share your guys' comments in the comments section. Love your insights on when you think, if you think this is going to be a super cycle this next time around. Do you think CBDCs are coming out this year? What do you guys think? Post those down below. The next thing that I wanted to cover, let's go over here. So this is Buck.
My boy.
Yeah, Buck is dope. So Buck has a couple of really cool projects that are going to be launching on Pulsechain. Fiat is the first one, and then they've got Famous, and then they're working on another one called Fatty. Buck made a really interesting tweet, or at least to me, it was really interesting. It's right here. So he says, Hex will probably double the moment any kind of positive news comes out, given that so much despair has engulfed the community the past couple of months. People have really overdone their panic, and it's going to be fun to watch it go the other way very suddenly. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is, gosh, like it gets really easy to get stuck in a trend. It gets really easy to feel like price is going to go up forever in a bull run. And it gets really easy to feel like price is going to go down forever in a bear market. And so one of the things that we've been doing, and we've been preaching to our group, and just like Corey said, is dollar cost averaging your way into the market is going to be a very sound strategy, which dollar cost averaging is just buying a little bit over a period of time. And so that looks like, you know, if you had $10,000 or $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter, but you're splitting up whatever amount you have and you're buying a little bit on a daily or a weekly or monthly basis, depending upon how much you want to average in and the time frame for which you want to average in. And that way you don't get left behind if price takes off. Similarly, you don't get destroyed and you went all in at one point if price goes down. The pricing today, in fact, let me pull it up.
And while you're pulling that up, I want to touch on that just for a second. That is hard to do for some people because now, once again, you have to control your emotions when you're DCAing. A lot of people ape in and out of the market, and you have to get control of your emotions. You have to get to the point where you admit to yourself, I can't time the bottom. I don't know where the bottom is at. And it's almost like you have to let your ego go. And it's an admittance of not knowing. And I love, there's a guy I follow named Maximum Broadcast. Guys, if you're not following him on YouTube, follow him. He talks about this mindset where you have to have an admittance of not knowing the bottom, not knowing the top, because you have the exact same strategy on your way out, and not knowing which project will do the next 1000x. And that's why you have diversification too. It's an admittance to oneself that you don't know. Even though you do all the due diligence and all the research and follow the market cycles and follow the Fed and do whatever else you can do, you can only do so much. You still won't know.
Right. Exactly. And now that we're at a place, I mean, I feel bad for these poor suckers that have been like, I've seen them over the last year and a half on Twitter where they're like, oh, I'm buying the Hex dip. Well, bro, you've been buying the Hex dip the whole last year, like the whole last year and a half. I mean, good for you. But gosh, like if you would have just paid attention to the crypto 4-year cycles, you don't have to be a genius. This isn't rocket science. You generally see a year to a year and a half of bear market where the prices of everything just go down. They just freaking go down. And so I haven't been trying to buy much of any Hex during the last year and a half because I understood those market cycles and I've been patiently waiting to have the time frame past year and a half. And in my opinion, there's only, and this could be wrong, like markets can move very quickly in any given direction. But in my opinion, I just don't see any reason for the Hex price to do a lot of, any interesting movement until one of two things happens. Either one, we get good version 3 testnet information from Richard. And in fact, we might get it in just a few days. The Hex conference is starting tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Richard will be speaking about about, you know, ideally updates. They'll be talking about Hex. It's a Hex based conference. So I don't know if we'll get a lot of Pulsechain, Pulsex type of stuff. But if he gives good news, then we could see, in my opinion, Hex price really start to move in a positive direction. Or we actually see the market capitulate. Richard's been calling for a 10K Bitcoin price. Hex, in my opinion, will be affected if that were to happen. We don't know how much. But once we can get to a place where everyone feels more confident, like the bottom's in, then you can see good price movement to the upside, as well as the money printers turning back on. These are all factors that I've been patiently waiting for, instead of like buying the bottom the whole way down.
Yeah,
I've
don't
been
follow the
patiently
narrative.
waiting.
Yep. Now you'd want a DCA, and DCA is very crucial. But like you said, if you'd have been DCAing all the way from the top down because you're trying to buy the dip every time, eventually you're going to run out of DCA money. You're going to run out of buy the dip money. How do I know that? Because I did that in the last bull run. It was like, oh, it's down 20%. Scoop it up. Oh, then it went down another 20%. It's okay, scoop it up. And it just keeps going. Remember, when a crypto drops 95%, it actually can drop another 95%, and then it can drop another 95%, and it can continue to do that all the way down. And so, like, be careful when people are trying to sell you on the narrative. Oh, we're down, 95%. This is the bottom. No, it can go down more. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And in fact, Hex could go down from here. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it went down another 50% from where we're at. Like if we got closer to a penny, like that wouldn't be that shocking. And so that's where nobody knows. And to your point, with your DCA strategy, you're admitting that, hey, like, you don't know where the bottom is, nor do you know the top. And so just buying a little bit as we go along, once, at least for me, once we're past that year and a half phase, which we are now, in my opinion, is a time that, I'm starting my dollar cost averaging
now's
back
a good
in.
time.
Yep. Yeah. In my opinion, now.
Do not ape in. I cannot stress that enough. And it's a control of emotions. You're going to want to. Oh, it's down. What if I miss it? Who cares? You got yourself a small bag there at the bottom. You didn't miss anything. Now you can DCA some more. It's not going to go. It's not going to shoot up a 100x tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to miss the train. Now, V3 could move the price. Yes. So start DCAing. And now, if Richard comes on the Hex conference and says V3 is coming out, okay, go buy a small bag right at that moment, when he announces if he does announce V3, the Hex conference. I don't think he will. But anything can happen.
Yes. Anything can happen. And I'd push back a little bit. If Richard announces V3 is coming, man, like that's a time I'm going heavy on my DCA. Yes.
I can see
I'm
that.
not waiting around. Now, once again, I could be wrong, but you have to understand that, gosh, right now, in my opinion, we are at pricing that is fantastic. Fantastic pricing.
There's something to be said that we don't know where bottoms and tops are, but we do know what controls markets. And Richard saying V3 is coming out next week controls that market. Like, yes. We don't know up to that point. Now we know. Like, now we know. Like, we can make a judgment call based on that. Absolutely, 100%.
Right. So it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see. So yeah, those are the main things that I wanted to cover today. Do you have anything else you want to cover before we jump off, Corey?
No, man, I think it was good. I think we covered a lot. I'm just super excited that we're starting to see some traction with some updates on Pulsechain. I personally believe that V3 is right around the corner. There was an update. I can't remember where I saw it, and we didn't cover it, and I can't remember the Twitter where I saw that, but the Pulsechain testnet, there was a Pulsechain testnet update too. It was connecting to nodes, a new one. And so that's happening too behind the scenes, where we think we anticipate that there's a V3 already running in the background in the private sector, and it's just a matter of bringing it out to the public. And so we're seeing there's some action there too. So I think V3 is very close. Whether Richard announces it in the Hex conference, I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? It could happen. But be prepared is all I'm gonna say. And if you guys need help trying to, be prepared for this amazing, absolutely amazing event that's about to transpire, because Pulsechain it is going to absolutely, in my opinion, revolutionize the marketplace. I mean, it's going to be very impactful. I think it will give Ethereum a run for its money. It might not be the Ethereum killer, like some people say, but it will definitely give it a run for its money. And if you could go back in time and buy Ethereum back, when did it launch? 2015, I think, or 14. If you could
I think
had
it's
an
15 years.
opportunity to go in on Ethereum back then, would you take that chance? Oh my gosh, it'd be a beautiful opportunity. And I feel like that's the opportunity we have now. So
Yes.
we have an amazing layer 1 blockchain that's going to get launched probably in 2023. And it's going to absolutely just make ripples in the crypto space. And so if you guys want to learn more about that and how to get involved in that ecosystem, because not to mention the layer 1 blockchain, it's got 150 projects being built on top that will launch day or around day one when Pulsechain launches. All the other chains like Phantom and Cosmos and Cardano, they all launched as ghost chains. They had no projects being built, and there's some projects being built on them now, and some of those chains are good chains. But this is launching with 150 projects already being built and a full system state fork of Ethereum, meaning they're copying all the other projects, bringing them over on Pulsechain. And if those other protocols or projects want to participate on Pulsechain, it's very easy for them to do. They just build a front end, point it at Pulsechain, and they're off to the races. So there's going to be a lot of adoption, a lot of like just big money flooding into the ecosystem as a whole. And if so, like if you guys want to learn more about this and how we're doing our due diligence and how we're navigating our way through all this, hit us up, man. We've been more than happy to talk about it. I love talking crypto. It's my favorite thing to do is talking crypto and learning about it, man. I love researching it. And I was in I was in Telegram chats till 11 a.m. last night, or 11 p.m. Sorry, 11 p.m. last night. And it's just been a beautiful journey, man. And I really believe it's going to revolutionize, our lives as a whole. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So feel free to comment on this video or send us a message if you want to connect, chat more about our group. We're happy to provide value and do anything we can to help you. Also, we've been working to see if there's a chance that we might actually end up being on the Hex conference this weekend. So tune in there.
Yep.
You may see us, you may not. We'll see, but that'll be fun.
We're working on it. Yes, and joining on again and again. Those t-shirts aren't getting any cheaper in Hex terms. You're 100% correct. So get yourself some t-shirts. I love t-shirts, man. I got myself a nice. I've been picking them up in the HSI auctions too. Just to guys, if you don't know what that is, go in there. Who is familiar with the ecosystem? Go in there, pick yourself some cheap t-shirts in the auctions. They are roughly around 30 to 40% off. On average, and I've been doing well in there, picking up and stacking those t-shares. So yeah,
and you can get a lot more t-shares for your dollar value today than you certainly could a year ago. So really exciting opportunity.
Yeah. Even though in Hex terms it was less, and we could do a whole nother show. We kind of talked about this yesterday, but this could be a whole nother show too. Hex terms was less, it took a lot more economic energy to get those t-shirts than we can today. And so right now, man, the opportunity for me is just bar none. I love it. Picking them up. I'm going to continue DCAing, keep stacking them. And yeah, man, it's great.
Absolutely. Cool, guys. Have a nice day. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys.